If you want to come over and have a look.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Tell us when you're planning.
Can you hear me? Pretty quiet. Get going. Yep. We've got a new audio system. Okay, is that better? Can you hear me?
That's better. Yeah, go on.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Gordon Baird. I'm the captain of the cruising section for one more week, and then probably again. Unless someone else wants the job. Welcome tonight. It's going to be an interesting evening. We've got Doug Steele, who probably needs almost no introduction amongst you, but Doug has been the safety representative on our section committee. I think he does the same also for the keelboat committee. Doug's a good sailor. He's done some racing and a lot of cruising around the club. He knows a lot about boats. I've seen him break a few things on his boat, which tells me he pushes it hard. He's a qualified Australian sailing auditor. So if you're going to do racing, he's one of those guys who comes and checks your boat to see what you've got on board and make sure you meet the category that you're trying to achieve for racing. So he's an ideal person to talk to us tonight about safety and man overboard. So I'd like to introduce you to Doug.
Hey!
Well, hello everyone. I thought I'd get maybe 10, 20 people. So, hello everyone. And I've got a bit of a cold, so I hope the voice keeps going and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, tonight there's a lot to get through. So, I know Gordon's put me on a time limit, but we'll see how we go and that sort of thing. So, all right. So what are we going to talk about? Well, these are the basic headings. And we'll get through as much of this as we can. There'll be some media as well. Anyway, so first up, and that is about when things go wrong on your boat and somebody needs some emergency, an ambulance or anything like that. Inside your sailing handbook, sure to have, and it's not just for racing boats. There will be that picture. There's a new one coming for the next year. That's the picture that's coming. So typically they said to come to the Soling Wharf, which none of our boats can get to. So what we've got to do is go out to the service jetty. That's the fuel jetty, the floating jetty. On your way in, you've got to notify the club and just say that you need an ambulance. They'll get everything organised. They'll get boats cleared, they'll get an ambulance down, they'll get everybody up. And in actual fact, we had that happen on this Saturday. So, and it worked perfectly. So, fellow was in a bit of distress, and radio call went out, boat came back straight away, and yeah, the fellow was picked up, ambulance, hospital, procedure, he's back on the road again. So, and it all worked very, very well, very seamlessly. So people at this end of the world know what they need to do. And it's just a matter of getting on and just ringing, radio, ambulance, whoever you need. So that's in the very front of the book. So, yeah, and it'll be the same this year. It's just front page as soon as you open it up. So it's got all the information that you need. Also in there is if there's an incident can be anything, and we've had it in the twilights, and we've had them in jams, where there might be a little bit of a collision, or there might be a man overboard, or something. The idea is to actually lodge an incident report. It's not to place blame on anybody, it's to find out what happened. and therefore that all gets filtered back to us so we can make things better or keep an eye out, see what we're doing. That's also third page in on the book. Now we can start. Yeah, there's a lot of things to go through tonight, so it's going to be a little bit long, hopefully not too long. But in the past couple of years, this is what we as a cruising section have been able to do and have done. So there's been some first aid training, diesel courses. Most of that, as you can see, is man overboard. There's sea safety survival course run by the club, which I recommend that if you haven't, then you should get to. And there's gives you practical knowledge, being in the water, climbing in the life raft, setting off flares, all those sorts of things. Next. Now, big things, and we've all got to deal with them at one stage or another. And the ships down here that come in and out of the port, they're restricted in where they can manoeuvre. There's not a lot of depth for them, so we have to be aware of them. And this is a slide from Mr. Kenny. Peter Kenny is a master mariner, and he drives tugs and brings these fellows, or rather he brings these fellows in. So this is just a gas ship, turned vertically. We think the buildings in Perth are tall, but a ship is longer, and that's not the longest ship that's out there. So obviously, and the ships can do a lot of speed, 13 knots. A cruise liner can do 20 to 25 knots. So that means that they're doing something like 6 minutes, 2 nautical miles. And at water level, you can only see 8 nautical miles. So a ship can come over the horizon and through you if you're not keeping an eye out. So that's something to remember, not just here, but out on the water. Right. Now we have this is all about safety gear that you need on board the boat, things like that. So this is the Green Book. It's our club's recommendations for equipment that all cruising boats should have. And the amount of equipment you have depends on just how far you need to go, more than anything else. So the Green Book is actually, we're updating it at the moment. Australian sailing, world sailing have introduced a new set of rules, but which some of it may apply to us, and that's part of looking at it. But there's also, they've gone through and reassessed the medical equipment. So they've added a lot more medical equipment than what was normally in this Green Book. Keep posted, we'll get through it, and we'll tell you when the new one is, and we'll put the link on the website. I believe that's not there at the moment, or the link's not working on the website. So. Every year, come out and you get your boats out, look at the keels. We've all heard of keels coming off boats, or legs, or the boats are taking on water from the keels. Each year you bring your boat up, check your keels, see if there's any rust around the keel to hull joint. Unless you've got a keel that's internal, it's integrated into the boat, then you should have no problems. But most of us have got external keels that are bolted on, one way or another, things like that. Check the nuts, are they in good conditions? Spreader plate's okay. Are the nuts torqued correctly? That's always the hard one. Great big pipe, and just bend it around. Grounding, if you've had a grounding, probably really don't, and you might think it's only very gentle, but because of the depth of your keel, it just will rock backwards, and there may be some stress fractures inside your boat, generally at the back of your keel, but also at the front. So keep an eye out, also look for that. And rudders, well, rudders are also a thing, aren't they? So just got to be careful with rudders. Check the bearings, check your steering, check your cables, check your tillers for wear, basically. And then we also get loss of steering. So sometimes that might come about, especially on wheeled boats where we'll lose a cable, or in my particular case, I was stuck on Mark B in my twilight with the helm stuck hard over the port, the steering mechanism, the autopilot mechanism disconnected, but reconnected to some other linkages inside. And I couldn't get off that buoy, so I was going round and round and round. And she looked like she was only about from here to you away, and we were just going around. So just check your steering. That's jam steering, lost steering. Got to make for wheel boats, you've got an emergency tiller. Make sure that's nice, close, handy. You've got the tools to take off the cover plates, and even practice it. So every now and again, just forget your wheel steering, put your tiller steering on, and you'll find that it's really, really hard. It's not an easy thing to do because the length of the tiller is typically very, very short. Now, some boats are lucky. They might have two rudders, two different hulks, so that they can still keep steering, things like that. Or they've got twin rudders at the back. The other thing that we should do is go out when we've got a fair bit of water and just practice steering with a drogue or a little sea anchor. Just set up as a bridle, either come off your transom or off your midships and just back to a winch. And it really doesn't take a lot of movement on your drogue in order to get your boat to move. It won't, it's meant more for long distance rather than tight cornering. So practice, check your steering cables, check your tillers, check everything. Safety briefing. So this is a case of often when we go out, we'll have people who aren't familiar with our boats. So the idea is to run them through what your boat has, what safety gear there is, life jackets, what you'll do if somebody goes over the side and things like that. So it's just always a good idea. Show them this is where the engine starts, this is your radio, this is what you've got to do. So, injuries on board. It's amazing how we've all had bumps and grazes and cuts somewhere along the line. So, thank you. Yeah. And it happens rather quickly and rather surprisingly, but it's something that we need to have in our medical kit, enough gear to handle most of the things that we get faced with. Make sure your medical kits are up to date. Yes, lots of things still have or do have use-by dates, even Band-Aids apparently, so just got one of those things. And if you haven't, I recommend that you do a first aid course. There's one coming up 16th of August.
It's been moved. Sorry, it's been moved, change of plans, it's been delayed.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
I haven't got a new date yet.
Yeah, stay tuned. All right. And Dr. Helga, who was here in the pub, she's an active sailor. She gave us a very good demonstration and talk last year. So I think, I can remember lots of heads being there. So medical kits. Yeah, as I said, there's lots of medical people go sailing, and they've done a lot of reviewing of the medical requirements that we had in our Green Book, in the Australian Sailing recommendations, and now they've updated. So there's a whole heap of equipment in there that is now, it's expanded what we need. For the racing section, they divide them up into 4 sections, but it's a cruising section. I recommend that you go back, have a look at the Australian Sailing Handbook, see what equipment is in there, and see what you would need. Splints, Israeli bandages, different medications that we've got, which would come around in the last 10, 20 years. And once again, the FSC book, the Green Book, is being updated. So you get safety equipment. That's a big subject, this one. There's a lot of gear, it covers a lot, and none of it is cheap. It's all expensive, but we all sort of need it at different times. So there's handy things. I come largely from a racing background, and there was lots of things on the race boats that I think transpire quite well into cruising boats, especially when you get crews coming in and out of the boat. typically on a cruise boat, there's 2 of us, 3 of us who go out, and then you have a whole bunch of other people. So a little diagram of your boat showing where all the major equipment is, the fire extinguishers, life jackets, all those sorts of things. It's very handy, just stick it up on a bulkhead.
It should be one for the deck level and one below decks.
Correct, Clive?
There's-
Yeah,
there's-
very good.
You need 2.
Need 2? Well, yeah, two diagrams show you where everything is. Very good. And then there's all sorts of things, radios, HF radios, satellite phones, we'll talk about them in a minute, flares, EPIRBs, tools, basic tool kit, if you, at least enough to cut away your rig in case, unfortunately, that might go. Your anchors, if you've got a spare anchor, make sure that that's stowed and secured and not just free to rummage around. So as part of auditing, I looked at a lot of different boats, and one of the biggest things was the spare anchor was generally inside, underneath the settee berth, but if the boat took a big knock, mast down the water, then the anchor is actually free to rummage around inside the boat. Make sure it's secure. It's a big, heavy weight, along with the chain. Grab bag, this is your grab bag with all your supplies, your wallets, passports, keys, flares, radio, all sorts of things, medications, water. So you need 1, 2, 3 bags, whatever you need for your boat. Just think of the worst case situation and have them ready, stowed, so you're not tripping over them, but ready to go close by. Steering failure, we just talked about, first aid kits, life jackets. Yeah, make sure that you service them on a yearly basis, and that can be simply just blowing up, investigating, having a look. Dan boys, life rafts, etc. There's a whole heap. All right, fires. Yeah, fires are always a problem on the boat. Especially a lot of our boats nowadays are fiberglass boats, and fiberglass that's like a fire, unfortunately. But typically, a lot of fires would start from a flare-up on a metho stove, or if you're unfortunate, a gas explosion. So always look out for your gas stiffers, things like that. Engines, don't hear about it too often nowadays, but if you get a diesel runaway on an engine, you know, just simply keep going and yeah, it's time to get off there. Build might just be quite catastrophic for the engine. Outboards, and that means petrol. So don't store petrol down inside. Upstairs, ventilated locker. And lithium batteries. Well, we all carry around lithium batteries in our phones nowadays. So there's lithium batteries left, right and centre. The lithium batteries that people are putting into their boats, as long as they go into professionally put in with a good charger, not a problem. It's all the other stuff that we've got. The phones, laptops, iPads, drones, seabobs, spotlights, all sorts of things like that. We all charge them up on the boat, but we've got to be careful. We've got to keep a watch on just how on that charging. Don't let it overcharge. It overheats and then it becomes a problem. That's when lithium fires have a runaway mechanism, and they don't need air to burn. So you know, whatever it is, throw it over the side if you can, and get rid of it. Otherwise, yeah, it's a real problem. They do have fire extinguishers for them nowadays, but once again, it's designed just to get to the battery. But the battery is always encased in our portable drills, inside the phones. Whatever it is, the battery is inside. So the fire extinguisher needs to get to that and not just the outside. So if something takes off, you've really got to keep the whole thing wet, cold, or ditch it. It's the best thing. Flares. Sorry, this is my cold. Flares, yeah, we need them. Yeah, and we've all got them on board. Make sure they're all in date. Make sure they're all in good order. This is where I recommend doing the CSAC, your survival course. You actually get to practice with the flares as well, take them off. Now, there's only 2 states in Australia that have authorised electronic flares. We've all heard about them, but currently only 2 states in Australia have authorised it, WA and Tasmania. Or in South Australia, if you're 2 nautical miles off in a restricted area, restricted waters. So electronic flares means that you're not faced with a pyrotechnic. So it has a long burn life, it will keep going. Now the reason why WA has gone and Tasmania went to electronic flares is because 95% of their emergencies come from the radio or mobile phone. Very rarely do they actually go to a parachute flare. It's very rare nowadays that that's actually caught in. So that's why they've gone to electronics. And because we've got better communication systems to get to people what we need. VHF radios. Well, we've all got them on board. We need to know how it is. We need to know how everybody who's a normal crew member on board knows how it operates. Ideally, they've all got a licence and how to do it. Problem is that it's the distance that you can hear or be heard is the biggest problem with radios. And that means having checked connections from the mast all the way down to the radio itself, things like that. Often it's the coax cable. Coax cable, the outside mesh wire, will short circuit the whole system. And so on my boat, I was lucky to actually get Frio rescue, and then got somebody down to actually look at it, freed up, and had just one strand of wire on the mesh wire was all that killed it. Now I can talk to Whitfords anytime, so I recommend just checking it, having a look, making sure that you can listen to Whitfords.
Anyone been to a radio check with the local voluntary rescue service wherever you are?
Correct. Yeah, indeed, and make sure and pick not Fremantle, but go to
pick
Whitfords.
somewhere else.
Pick somewhere down the track, see what mileage you can get, things like that.
And you can work your way up and down the coast to check out far your broadcasting.
Yeah.
So where are you? You go up there, Sun Club, okay, you're right.
Yeah, and just let them know where you are.
Yeah.
Right. Now, lots of the boats, all the racing boats nowadays are required to have what's called DSC radios, and I recommend that those in the cruising sections who don't have those, when the time's come to replace your radio, get something called digital selective calling. And there's a whole heap of different reasons why, but the biggest thing is that this radio can broadcast your position. So if you have a problem, you can select DSC call out, and you can then select whether it's a mayday, whether it's a pan, whether you've got a fire on board the boat. I've also set up that I've got MOB, or I need help, things like that. And what it does, it sends that message out, and it tells everybody where you are. And it will send that regularly until somebody is actually acknowledged that you're in strife. But not only that, afterwards you should also do a verbal talk on the radio and just tell them where you are. But it's a very good decision where to go. But it also comes into play because these will respond to an alert from a personal AIS speaker. And when they go off, they're very, very loud, and they need to be acknowledged in order to cancel them. HF radios. Well, a few boats have still got them, but Australia's not listening to HF radios anymore, but people around the world still are. So it's a good way of communicating to a lot of different people, but you can't get to the authorities. They're all going for, or replacing it with satellite phones, updating it. HF radio is reliant on the frequencies in our atmosphere, so not always very good. Problem with the sat phones is quite often they're down inside and we can't hear them when we're up on deck. So you need to be able to connect it into your radio. Connect it from the bottom, even if it's into your normal leisure radio or into your VHF radio, so you can hear it in the cockpit when it goes on. Quite often there's been cases, and there's been cases in events that we've run, but not only in this club, where the club tried to get in contact with the people. The radio was in their bag, downstairs, squirreled away. And in this particular case, it was because somebody's PLB had gone off. AMSA rang the club and said, "What's going on?" The club didn't know at that stage because they don't have an idea what PLB does. So they tried to contact it with the satellite phone, tried to contact the boats around them, same problem for them. It took a couple of hours in order to actually have it done. AMSA was getting a bit agitated. And they said, "We've got a jet on the runway, who's paying for it?" So, and that means that you've got to look out for your PLB, don't activate it, make sure it's not activated, but also so you can hear your satellite phone. And then we come to good stuff. A bit more good stuff. So these are things that we've got, different stages of all different sizes. There's my old brick. This is my personal locating beacon. Battery doesn't work anymore, I don't think. A big one, 10 years. Now they've gone down to smaller sizes. Or, I should have got this out earlier. Tiny little devices. These devices are actually designed to fit inside your life jacket. So you're wearing a life jacket, it goes off, this will go off and it alerts the authorities. Otherwise, you've got to keep it in your bum bag. And not many of us wear bum bags. Racing is very much required. You should have a bum bag that's on your life jacket. And then you work. You've got to have a certain amount of equipment in there. These are great. Another thing that we've got is personal AIS units. Now, these tiny little devices also fit inside your life jacket. And when they're armed and you go into the water, life jacket goes off, this will activate, it sets an alarm back to your boat and to nearby boats. This is your best method of getting rescued by your own boat if unfortunately you end up in the water. Okay, so recommend these, not cheap, but it's worth your while. These have got a range, depending on your VHF antenna, 2, 4, 5 nautical miles. But what it does do, it sends a unit, it sends a signal to the VHF radio, and it sends a signal to your chart plotter. And from that, it will tell you on the boat, bearing from your boat and distance away. So, very important.
And there's a process to
There is a process.
programming.
Yeah, and look, there is a process in order to get it to talk to your boat. You do that from here, and yearly you just got to test it. Most important things with these is there's a bunch of buttons, a bunch of signals on it. You've got to know how to turn it off. So they all come, and this isn't the only one, there's a bunch of different ones. They've all got their own sequence of lights, flashes, pressing the button for 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 6 seconds, and it comes off. But most importantly, know how to turn it off. Difference between the PLB and AIS. AIS will get you rescued from your own boat or a nearby boat. PLB more than likely means that they're coming looking for your body, and not just for you. Okay? So, important bit of equipment. So this fellow, he was actually in the Sydney Hobart race, This year was a bit tragic. They lost two people. He ended up as being a man overboard. It was first night out, it was a big windy night, 30 odd knots. Lots of the boats had commented that they had cross seas coming from two different directions, northeasterly and a southerly coming up on its swell. So they had three different wave directions. So the boats were being tossed around. This particular time they were running fairly deep and heading south to Hobart, and the boat, they were probably running too deep, as not what as cruising boats we would do, and they end up having a crash jibe. So it meant that the boom, instead of being on port, ended up on starboard. This was a racing boat, it was doing 20 odd knots at the time. He got pinned on the leeward side. Then he, fortunately, was able to release himself. He popped up, but by that stage, the boat was 200 to 300 metres away from him. And still, they were having all sorts of dramas. It took them 20 minutes in order to get their boat back in order. Sails squared away, and everybody they thought they had accounted for everybody on board. But it was actually AMSA who rang them and said, "You've got a PLB, belongs to this fellow, account for everybody." And that's when they realised that they were actually missing one of their crew members. So, you know, they had a bit on in their terminology, but he was watching the boat just disappear. So they were able to come back to him because they could home in on his beacon. But on that night, it took them 40 to 50 minutes to come back and get him. But he had drifted 1.2 nautical miles from where he first fell out. So, you know, the thing is that if you if you have somebody go over, you always try and get back to where you were. But the wind, the waves, current took him 1.2 nautical miles away from where he was. So, without an AIS unit, that was difficult. Now, he had his PLB and his AIS in his bum bag, so he actually had to hold them up. Whereas I recommend that you actually have them inside your life jacket, and then when your life jacket goes off, then they will automatically arm. Just going back one, on the far right hand side, we've got a combined unit nowadays. So it has the PLB and the AIS unit all combined. It's a big unit though. So it doesn't fit in all life jackets, but it fits in most of them. So this gets away the need from having two units, just one, it goes off, fires a satellite, and it can inform you as to where you are. So yeah, Luke, very lucky man. And he just nonchalantly just gave an interview. But we'll move on. A few years ago, I actually did a whole heap of testing with these little AIS units amongst the racing fleet. And it was really interesting in that I would go off, set mine off, and that I'd ask each of the boats to actually go and take a photo of their chart plotter and their radio and see what they came out with. So these are a bunch of boats. They all show up differently as to where they are, as to where the crew is. So that's soon, but he went down to 3 pages. That was his radio. This was the session radio and their chart plot. But it does actually say where you are, where you're going. It's another one. So it's a vessel. This was choice, the other race boat. But they all came in with different. This is Argo. Actually said it was an MOB, that was test, but they were down here. So it's a matter of where they were and where they needed to get to before connection. So what you need to do is to test an AIS, go and look at your chart plotter. Every chart plotter shows it differently. Just what do you need to do? How do you do it? And overboard. Life jackets. Oh, there's quite a few of them now, isn't there? We've all got them. And they come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. So one of the good things being an auditor, I could get to have a look at all these U-Butte life jackets, and then, you know, some top line cost hundreds of dollars, and others we can get from our local BCF. But importantly, the thing is with the life jackets is that you've got to know your life jacket. You've got to know how it operates. You've got to know what there is. This is my life jacket. It's got a buckle, it's got a tether point for a tether. I'll put a knife on it so I can cut my tether if I need to. I've got my AIS inside it. It's got a strap that goes around the bladder. When the bladder inflates, that activates it. Well, I'm getting mate. Who hasn't had a life jacket go up on them? Has anybody here not had a life jacket? I need a guinea pig. Who wants to come? Go on,
No, Wayne.
If I went in the water, I'd have my jacket off, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That may fit you. You've just got to try it.
Lost Wayne.
It's set up. All right, you need your groin strap. Put that on. Why do you need that? Because if you get pulled out and you don't have one of these on, the life jacket comes off you. This is in order to keep you in. Okay, so it's a bit loose. Something bigger than you used the last time.
Also, the groin strap is so that once it does deploy and you're in the water, it doesn't run it over your face.
Correct. That is correct, yeah.
Yeah, nothing to do with being recovered, it's even when you're in there.
Even when you're in. Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it shows up otherwise. Right. Okay. So this one got a buckle. It's a good buckle. It's got a lid. So this is a jacket that came off my boat. It's got a plastic buckle. That plastic buckle will not support your weight as you're being pulled up. Okay, so I've got it. Well, it's not a waterfall for that very reason. What else we got? One strap. So they come there. So on this one, they've all got. This is this life jacket of mine. Does have. It's automatic, but it's set up by wafer. So you can get a full manual, and lots of four-deckies will use a manual, or an automatic, and the automatic comes either as a wafer-driven, so it just requires water, and it will go off, or pressure. So if you drop a metre in the water, then you pop back up. So you pull that. Bing! There we go. All right. So,
I always wanted to do that.
always wanted
I didn't
to.
want to use my own life jacket.
So, life jacket's got a whistle, got a light that should go off when it's in the water. This is a manual. So, one of the things with life jackets, especially big life jackets, this is a 190, but the bigger units, 250, you can actually get so that they'll strangle you. So you've got to learn. Turn the plate a little bit, or conversely, you can blow it up. Now, the other jackets nowadays, or the older ones, one of the things with, if you end up in the water, your body is a bigger unit than your legs. So it means that the waves will turn you down and you're actually facing the waves as you come. So what happens now is, you've got that, is we now have a little spray shield. That spray shield, and underneath the bladder, and underneath the bladder. Alright. Hey, he looks totally comfortable, doesn't he?
Looking good, Wayne, looking good.
Looking very, very good. Okay. So on mine, as you notice, I didn't have an AOS set up on this one, but there's an AOS was set up here with this aerial, and then that will just go. Okay, so that's part of it. Nice. So can't use it again.
I was planning on jumping in my pool with my my light vest with my PLB3 and just to see what happens.
Just to see what happens. Yeah. So there you go. So basically, that's what happens more than anything else. So it's always interesting, you know, it's as to how it goes off. You can see just how quickly that went off. You're in the water, you get popped out very quickly. If you've got a tether on, I always use 3-point tethers. A long tether and a short tether. Unfortunately, there was one time, not so long ago, I changed from short tether to a long tether for a crew change. But yeah, that was one of those things. Needed to have, the other thing is this. This is the little strap you need, all that life jackets have, so that you can get picked up and hauled back on board. So they're all a little bit different as to where they go. This one is down around the stomach. So as a boat, you're coming up and you're trying to work out how to pick Wayne up. That's if you decide to pick Wayne up.
What's it worth?
So it's just got a little strap there. They work a bit differently. My old bird, its strap was up here on the chest, so it was easy to grab. But then, as the boat's coming up to grab you, they're grabbing you with a boat hook. Right, so that means it's a boat hook in the face, in the stomach, in the groin. Now, what I've got is a line. So it's attached to the lifting strap. This floats. It's a 3mm Dyneema line. It's yellow, should be able to see. And the idea is that you can grab that with a boat hook. It's not infallible, but that's the idea. You can grab this with a boat hook. This 3mm line holds 1 tonne, so you can take 2 or 3 people just on this line. You need to just grab this, hold onto it, clip it to your hanger, whatever it is, and get them out of the water. So it's much, much easier to use that than this, but it doesn't mean it's a perfect system. While we're on life jackets, this is a life jacket from Steve Parko. Now, it's got extras. It's got its own little light. So instead of having a light in the bladder, it's got a little light that is up above your head. Anything like that will help go through. It also has, on this particular one, it's got what's called lumon patches there. When they're wet, they're little lights that are attached to the bladder. So instead of looking for a little light like that, the whole bladder is illuminated. So you're looking for a bigger horseshoe. That's just a good thing. size a little different to the AIS unit. So it's a big unit. That costs the same as 2 of these. But it's all one unit. You don't have to worry about it. It's set up. It goes off. And you're fine from there on. And Steve's jacket also has another nifty device that if he ends up in water and he's being towed, he can pull the strap. Pull this little hoop and disconnect his lifeline. So his tether, it just means that then he's up. And off the water. What else we got? There's more stuff. So this was from the exercise last year, and so this is the line that I was talking about, and it's called an MOB Lifesaver, $45, and it's a good addition to what you've got. Tethers and jack lines. Well, part of all this talk is about what happens when you fall in the water, but obviously we shouldn't be in the water. We've got to stay on board the boat. The most important thing is stay on board the boat. Don't go over the side. Things don't look terribly good when you're going. So how do we stay on? One is tethers, and there's 2 different sorts of tethers that we've got. One is the older plate style. Most of us have got these ones, which are good, efficient, do what they do. A bit of a pain to use on the deck because the throat's a little bit narrow. But most importantly, they are prone to bending under severe load. And it has been known to open up, things like that. Whereas nowadays, thanks mate. So that's what most of us have got cruising. This is what they're replacing it with. It's a cast aluminium. It's lightweight, very simple action, big, but it won't bend. And it's light. So this system, this one is actually lighter than that. That's the old one. New one.
Yeah.
I recommend that. Apart from which, a bigger throat means it's easier to run along on your jack line on the boat. You're not having to hold. These ones, typically I had to hold them up as I was moving on so that they would jam. These ones don't jam. Normally we would run our jack lines around the side of the boat. And that's pretty good because it means that we run them around so they're on top of all sheets, lines, tracks, whatever, and we can go from the cockpit to the bow or to the mast, attend what we need to do.
Inside or outside the shrouds?
Well, that all depends on the setup of the boat.
Yeah.
However, problem with a jack line is that it depends on which side of the boat you're actually on. And the jack line is close to the side of the boat. So if you go over to the boat and you're on the windward side, you should be able to stay out of the water. If you happen to be on the leeward side, you're actually in the water. So that presents another problem, just in itself. So recommendation is actually to run one single one down the centre or 2 very close to the centre so that it increases the distance between that jack line and the side of the boat. Once again, if you're moving about on a boat, make sure you're tethered, especially when there's just 2 of you or 1 of you on board the boat.
Do you have to disconnect when you get to certain parts of the boat?
Sometimes you do, and that's where 3-point system. One is connected to you, one is on your jack line. If you need to change position, you've got the other clip. So clip on, then move, keep going. So very good point for 3. If you end up in the water on the leeward side and the boat's moving, so they did a test, and they found that between 3 to 4 knots with the typical life jacket that we've got, which is front connected, then you'll be rotated, you'll get water over your head, and the faster you go, the more you rotate. So your head's actually underneath water. Really important to get the speed off the boat. But that's only if they know that you've gone over the side, more than anything else. So, just got to be aware. And the other thing with tethers is often it's when there's a watch changeover and the crew, if it's 4, 3, 5, how many you've got aboard the boat, everybody's been in the cockpit at one stage and there'll be a crew changeover going backwards and forwards. And sometimes if you disconnect and you're in the cockpit, that's actually a dangerous time to do it. So I've been on a yacht and we took our first screening of that afternoon, and it was the 2 girls who were just disconnected, one coming on, one on watch, one going downstairs, both disconnected, both in the companionway. They ended up in the back corner of the boat. Spread eagled, but we could have lost them over the side. So you need to have another method or a buddy line to go through. So recommendation is if your boat's not too wide, then you have a spare line, probably even a 2-point line, not a 3-point line, connected to your jackstay on the windward side, dangle it into the cockpit or into the companionway if you can. Means somebody's coming up, you can hook on, they're connected to the boat until they get in the cockpit, and then they reconnect their own one. That's what's up. If your boat's a bit wider than that, then what I use is another 2-point system, but mine is connected to a hard point just outside the companionway. It means that I can throw it inside or outside. Once again, you connect it on until you move to the cockpit, and then you can connect your own line onto your jackstay. Most importantly, stay on the boat. Okay, this is about getting people out of the water, but most importantly is just stay on the boat, because otherwise it's a bit of a problem. So in this discussion, MOB, well, it's gentleness, right? So we can't use POB because it's generally people on board when you're signing in for like a trial or something like that. So that's taken. COB, crew on board, maybe, maybe not. MOB, member is overboard. Now, this is an important flow chart that Kim Clacker looked at. He came up with. He was looking at this very situation a little while ago, a few years ago, and when you start to chart what your chances are, whether you're in the water or on the boat. So, most importantly, he worked out, as we all know, don't go overboard, stay on. So, clipped on, green line leads to a happy situation. Any of the red lines leads to an unhappy situation. So, you know, if you go over the side, is your head above water? Yes, no. So, in Luke's case, his head was underwater, but he was able to release his tether. And then his life jacket kept him up, basically. Kim, I had another line, can you swim? Not everyone can swim, okay? So, it's one of those things. Are you wearing a life jacket? Yes or no? Hopefully you are. And then a self-inflate or auto-inflate. If you're conscious, that's good. If it's a manual inflation and you're unconscious, then it's a big room as well until they come back. Crew have got to be aware of you going over the side, and do they know where you are? So you need to have some method of locating you in the water when you go over. So out of this flow chart, I think it's very valuable. Be clipped on, wear your life jacket, stay on board. Don't go over the side. Now, MOB can happen anywhere, at any time. So you just got to practice your manoeuvres in order to stop your boat as quickly as you can on all points of sail. Going upwind, fairly easy, you just bring your boat head to wind, or if you're going downwind, you've got to hold out your Genoa. That's more of a problem, but once again, just turn it around. You can deal with flapping sails, but it's much harder to come back and find your man in the water, or person in the water. Most importantly, when you clean up and get your sails in the water, check that there's no lines over the side before you start your engine. Always, I recommend using your engine more times than sailing up to somewhere, but you should still have that capability. And then, who's going to go over the side? Well, who's going to go over the side conscious? Somebody on the foredeck, are they playing with the dinghy, kayaks, come a bit loose, or pulled out, or if they've got a spinnaker or a jenniker, that sort of thing. Person at the mast. A lot of boats have got winches at the mast, or they're adjusting halyards, stays, whatever. So, or somebody who just, nice day, I'll lean against the boom, or something flicked off. Who's likely to go over unconscious? Well, that's somebody who's in the cockpit, they're trimming the main sheet, because they might get hit with the boom, trimming the sails, and they're not watching what's going on, so once again, they're tending to a dinghy, kayak, anything like that. Somebody's standing up in the cockpit, doing a jibe, and can get hit with the boom. And I've got good friends being hit with the boom. Or somebody falling or thrown across the cockpit. And it happens. So, especially in rough seas, day and night. And like our weather out there today, last few days, not the best. Let me get in a bit of good fun. Man overboard. Do you have a rescue plan? What equipment do you have? Have you tested it? The club actually has a weighted 80-kilo dummy, port roof, and it makes it very realistic in trying to get them up, rather than just throwing over a fender which has got a bit of chain or a bucket tied to it. And then you've got to try lifting that MOB by yourself. So most of us have got just two people, one goes over the side, the other person has to get you up. And quite often, it's probably the bullhead male who's running around doing this, I'll do this, and then they go over the side. So it might be the partner, got to pick them up. So you need a rescue plan, and you've got to work through your equipment as to what it is. So, but first of all, rescue, quick stop your boat. Whatever method it is, stop within 2 to 5 boat lengths. And at sea, 5 boat lengths is enough to put 2 swells, 2 metre swells between you and the person. So you've got a real job trying to actually find them in that time. Throw your horseshoe, throw your dam buoy, be it a rigid one or an inflated one, throw it over the side. And then you've got to mark your position. That's where they are. So I always go out, I've got a handheld GPS, and on it, it actually has a button where it's man overboard. It tells me where it is, where somebody in the water is. So it gives me distance and bearing, but it's in the cockpit. Some people have got their chart plotters upstairs. They've got a man overboard button, know how that is. Some boats, race boats, have also got a man overboard button next to the steering wheel. So the helmsperson can push it, and that's connected to their chart plotter. Send out a message. So, handheld in the cockpit, if you're lucky, or not so much if you're lucky. Some boats have actually got a remote that goes back to their chart plotter or their radio. Most importantly, do not go inside, because that's when you lose sight of who's there in the water, especially with your partner. Have all this equipment in the cockpit, ready, on table, so you can use it. And then you've got to reduce sail and check lines. And then use your motor, and then use the life sling. I recommend using life sling. I've got that, throw it over the side, go around, do your water ski jet pick up, and bring the person back close to the boat. not on board the boat, but close to the boat. There you go. And then you can go and prepare your lifting device. And what's that look like? Yeah. All sorts of things. So, I've got mine in a little bag, but what I've got, and that lives in my pocket locker, is that I've got, mine is set up, it's a four perches, that goes to the top, got a cleat at the top, and I've tied it off with silk ribbons. Silk, because silk you can just pull any time. Click, it's easy, and it's just, hopefully, comes undone. Velcro is hard to do when you've got cold hands, cold wet hands. That's set up so that my head is 2.5 metres up, and then that's sort of in the water when it's all undone. What else? How are you going to get them up? Well, that's 4 to 1. You can use 5 to 1, 6 to 1, just a matter of rope. And figuring that somebody who weighs 80 kilos wet, then it needs 20 kilos of pull to bring them down. If they're heavier, you need more pull. Use a winch. Normally the winches on top of the cabin top aren't big enough to do the job. So work out if you can bring it to your jib winches or your windlass. If you've got a gypsy on top of your anchor winch, that's your strongest winch that you've got to bring them up. You've got to work out how to get there. So this is Ruth. She's all decked out, ready to go. But I encourage you, when you go and do your MOB, to do it, don't do it on a nice, pretty day. We all see these videos where there's no swell, no water, no anything. And you go, well, that's pretty good. And it makes it easy. Lots of boats got big wide sterns, and it's one method of getting them over the back of the boat, except when the seas are lumpy. So you end up hitting their head with your transom of your boat. Much better to bring them on the side of the boat where you can, where you've got a head. Bring them up midships. That's Ruth. Yeah, she's heavy. It's amazing just how heavy it is. Because she's a mannequin, she is an unconscious person in the water. No assistance, no equipment. So 2 years ago, we did a exercise just out here on the VIP jetty. So our captain then, Pat, he brought down his boat. He had here on the right button, he had what's called a John Boy. It inflated and it looks like that one in the middle. So Dean McKenna was our good little guinea pig. He jumped in. So Pat, in this one, he used his boom. He thought, right, I'll rig this up to the end of the boom, and then, given the size of the boat, he's then got electric winches. So he hauled Dean up. But given the length of the bridle and the strap, that's as high as it could go. So we couldn't actually get him on board. And the reason for that was that the boom vane, he's got a hydraulic boom vane, wouldn't go any higher. So that was something that none of us knew until we did it. So it was a matter of just practicing. Then over on this side, he also had a cone. Well, it sort of represents a sea anchor. And Dean said he felt most comfortable in that. He was inside. He wasn't sitting, right? Wasn't sitting just on a John Boy. He was inside, but it was really hard to get out of. And once again, he couldn't, so he had to scramble out of that because that's as high as he could get. And then we did another one last year. So we had 4 boats go out, and we had a whole heap of different people went out, and we tried, I think every boat did 2, 3 attempts at trying to get a man overboard using different systems as to what they were doing. Things like that. So, and that was pretty good. So bear with me. We've got a couple of short videos, well, just to see how it goes. So this was the ladies off Star Lady. Central out. But this is where they're coming up. There were three of them. Importantly, they had pointed out to Christine as to where they were. They pulled up on that light line. Right. A bit of a problem just disconnecting. But that's right. Get rid of that. But hey, they just kept it on. Right. So now I've gone back and winching up on the top, on the cabin top winch. And Isabel needs to give it a bit of a tug. As you can see, here the wind was about 10, 12 knots. So we had 300-400 mils of water. We had the boats bouncing around. Not just nice and flat and calm, which added to it. So it was actually a good day in which to do it, in which to practice with the boats moving around, things like that. So anyway, yeah, they managed to get her up eventually, but the cabin top winch was underpowered, so it needed more help.
So that was using main headed?
Though I think they were using, I'm not sure which halyard they used, whether it was a main halyard or a jib halyard. And I should say that we did this exercise underpowered. Because there was a number of boats moving around, it was decided that it was safer for all of us if we just did it underpowered. The idea being, though, that when you passed roof in the water, you had to do it as if you were on a point of sail, as if you were heading up, beating 30 degrees off the wind or coming down the wind. It's trying to replicate it, not just driving straight at it. So it's a matter of trying to get through. And this was another one. This was Skeeter. And everybody had a plan. Like all boats have a plan as to how they're going to do it. So here the wind's up a little bit more. And so the boat's a little bit higher freeboard, so it's higher up out of the water. People are higher up out of the water. You can see that they're trying to grab that little string. But not able to grab it first time round. So I swung around. This is the gentleman who came a bit closer. You can see the string. So see the water's a bit bouncy. Alright. And I should say that the other boat, Starmania, what we saw, that was their third pickup as well. So they didn't get the first pickup, it's got third. So you can see here the crew were up on the foredeck. They figure they've got more room in order to bring the roof up out of the deck. I mean, when we did this, we had sharks and we had Pat in one of the pub streets, so we were able to get the beach. And this time you see that they've got two hooks, two boat hooks, and it's spaced a little bit apart. So the first one tries, gets it, but doesn't get the hook. Just let go. Right. Try it again. This one. Then Chris is over there. Wait. Chris is over there. But it goes to show that don't rely on one person. Have your crew space, if you've got numbers, have them spaced down the boat and be prepared to just hand that boat over and keep coming down. So one of the things that Jacques pointed out that we all get was everyone hung onto the roof. So somebody was always hanging onto that string. So it automatically takes you out of being a useful member. You hang onto it.
Yeah,
What Jacques pointed out was have a length, just tie on the length line. Let it just drift out slightly out the back of the boat. Then you can go and get your gear, go and get ready.
Or even the midships cleat. Even the midships cleat.
Anywhere. Yeah.
It's very difficult to do it with, if there's two of you and one goes over the side.
Correct.
You know, it's looking at the number of people doing trying to.
Yeah, indeed. So all the boats that go out, that we saw generally go out with just 2 people. But on the day, we had a number of people who wanted to come out and try. But this is their normal crew that they go out twilighting. So what Brett has got there, he's got a hoop. Now what we've all told in all our literature, in the videos, is that if you're in cold water and the person has got suffering from hypothermia, or if they're unconscious, you've got to bring them up horizontally, not just drag them out of the water, bring them up horizontally. So here what they're trying to do is get the hoop around. And I'll sped this up because this is 7 minutes, 8 minutes long. The difficulty that they found was getting the hoop underneath. So what they found was that she's unconscious, her legs floated in underneath the boat. So as the boat was going down, her legs were underneath. So trying to get that hoop around was a bit difficult. So they tried a number of different ways in order to get it. And then here, they've actually got the hoop around up to the knee. And in order to pull up, they need to get that line of the hoop connected with the...
Yeah, it's also inside here, right?
Let's bring it up. And now, as you can see, the roof is horizontal. You have to bring her up. She's cold, she's wet, but she doesn't know. And there we go. So, yeah. But what it was highlighting was just the difficulty. It wasn't easy, and it was a good day in order to...
Is there any way you could hold that loop a little bit open?
Well,
Piece
no,
of hose
it's
or
already
something,
on.
so it's easier to.
That's so it's just got a little bit of
Well, it's
little bit
got
of
about a metre,
tube in
a
it.
metre of...
That needs to be bigger, but it needs another tube
oh,
down
sorry,
here,
yeah.
something like that. Right, so that it's a bigger. So in the water, what's happening is this: it was just closed. You know, right?
I'm
So
working
just
on an
floating
upgrade.
around. And therefore, your boat hooks. The other thing with boat hooks, they're all too short. You need longer boat hooks.
Magnets.
Or taller crew.
So this was Honkers, and this is double speed. So Honkers was using the life sling in this one. Right, one of it's got life slings, back of the boat. So, right, she's unconscious, but she's afloat. So you just got to try and hook her more than anything else. Around. Make it faster again.
Don't run around, Steve!
Round and round and round. So that was once round, then I get round again. And you can see the line just going out and round. What you do notice is the more it goes round, the flatter the seat actually gets. So the wind wave got back. Makes it a little easier to use. Now it's got it strapped up, and now he had 100 crew on board that day. So So now that you've wrapped up 2 or 3 pies, then they're open, just gradually. Still on the boat, and as you can see, even though she's unconscious, the light spin is floated, but there's enough turns around that they can bring her back into the transom and bring her up. Things like that. So, once again, as you said, there's crew. When you're by yourself, it's a bit harder. So, but the point of these videos is to just demonstrate that this was fairly mild conditions that we're in. They weren't onerous conditions at all, but it's a good day to practice on.
Say 2 of you, and the other one's in the sea, because there's one person on board then, the other person's in the sea,
Yes.
and very injured possibly, and bleed, then maybe the person should use a satellite phone to phone the insurance, update the insurance. Just an idea there. That's more for Helen's benefit.
Yeah, all right. So this is the last video of picking up things like that. So once again, gone down. In this case, had this hooked up. So Paul's got it. We've got Dewey. Dewey's got his picked up. Excellent. And you notice that every boat, when they got hold of it, they all had to stop. So we all had a little bit of way on. And that's the fine line, is that if you don't have much boat movement, then the boat is blown away. It's harder to react. So you've got to have some way on. As soon as you get that connection to the MOB, you've got to keep the speed.
Sorry, Doug, is that the 4th or 5th pass?
What? Up back, what was that? First pass, second pass? First pass.
So good memory. We're in the position of
Ran down, so here, I actually we ran out of the block and tackle, but I had the halyard set up on the main winch, on the jib winch, so I was able to get an extra 1.5 meters out of that. So the learning out of that was I need more rope on my block and tackle. Single-handed. Single-handed. All right. That's always going to be a dilemma. Things like that. So what do you do? How do you get around it? Okay. So I know that there's several out here. Malcolm Moneypenny. He wears a remote control for his autopilot. So if he ends up in the water, he's hoping that within 30 to 40 metres, he can get that boat and head it up into the wind. From him in the water, it's gone to wind, and hopefully he can then swim that far and do it. So that's if he's conscious.
Doug, when I sail single-handed, I just got this mindset now when I hit auto on the autopilot, I clip on.
You clip on?
Every time.
Yes, yeah. And that's what we come back to, is stay clipped on, stay on the boat. Don't go over the side. I mean, these exercises are there just in order to bring somebody back on board. But the most important thing is stay on board. Yes. Hi, Glenn.
Yeah, just those videos there was something really interesting. I think only one set of crew were tethered. So they could have ended up with more than one person in the water. Very easy.
2 sets of crew were tethered.
Thank you, yes. So
Yeah.
when you're going out on Sunday, try doing it together.
Well, that's right. So the crew on 2 of the boats were tethered, and the other crews weren't. So very good point. So yeah, because otherwise you've got other people in the water and not just one person. So this is.
So this is a single-handed man overboard drill that I did this summer. Essentially to show that if you have, as a single-hander, pre-installed nylon ladders like these, it is possible to climb back aboard single-handed. Some folks have said that if you go overboard single-handed and you're being dragged by the boat, that it's impossible to get back aboard. Well, this shows that it's not impossible. You know, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. And these nylon ladders could make the difference between life and death for a single-handed that goes overboard and is being dragged by the boat. The single-hander should also make sure that he clips to his jack lines short so he doesn't fall over the side in the first place.
It's a method. But he was obviously strong enough to do it, fit enough to do it, and his boat freeboard was low enough that he could do it.
And he didn't have a full-size life jacket on.
And he didn't have a life jacket on and he wasn't clipped on.
No.
So, it was a demonstration, but it could have gone the other way. But, it's always a method of, do you trail a line out the back that's connected to your boat, connected to your tiller, connected to your steering wheel? Okay, Kim?
For the last, I think it's 5 years, all the boats built in the EU have to have a method of being able to get back on board unaided, which is usually some kind of folding collapsed ladder with a bit of rope dangling down that you grab. And that's a requirement for all boats that are built in the EU.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. So on our boat, on our transom, I've actually got a line that's hooked. The ladder's folded up, and it's just a slip knot. It comes down from the water, you can grab it. But I like your thinking, I need to make that line a bit longer so it actually trails in the water. And that came about from an incident a few years ago where I ended up in the side, and young Gordon got me out of the water. And that was here in the pen. So, and after that went, okay, now how do I do it?
My boat in Greece had one of these pull-out things. It's about 3 inches wide, and it's about the most pathetic heap of rubbish imaginable. I had a swim platform that folded out the back.
Yes.
And I tried to get on it on a mooring, and it's impossible. Because as soon as you put your feet in the ladder, it goes right underneath the boat, you're upside down.
I've got to admit that the previous owner of my boat, he changed that ladder and put a swimming pool ladder in. So it's a substantial ladder. Yeah, that's good. All right. Now, I've got this picture up here. This is actually of a race that they do in England around the Isle of Wight, around the island race. And it was strong, it was blustery, the weather forecast was building. This particular boat had 5 people on board. So,
Initially.
so in England they've got strong currents, races around the headlands, the seas build up. This boat was very close to headland. This picture was actually taken from a headland, from somebody had a camera, snapped this picture from a headland, so really in close. Had 5 people on board. Then they got knocked down, and in the knockdown, 2 people went over the side, and the helmsperson fractured his leg. So they went from 5 to 2 people. Fortunately, one of the fellas went over the side, was actually tethered on, his tether held. They were able to get him back on board. So then that meant that they had 3. And then they had to come and get this fella down the bottom right-hand corner. It took them 3 times to get it and reduce sails. You can see it's big conditions, and you'll lose somebody like that within 3 wave sets. So they were very, very lucky. But the point of this one was you might have crew and then you don't. Because, it went from 5 to 3 people, or 2 people, in order to get them back on. And that's just about it. Sort of wrap up.
A man overboard is one of the most serious emergencies at sea. But with good seamanship, thoughtful planning and regular practice, it can often be prevented and safely managed if it does happen. Life jackets, tethers, harnesses and the right safety kit make a difference, but more than anything it's about experience. Every crew can build their own boat-specific knowledge by walking through each stage together and in advance. Prevention starts with understanding how and where to clip on. Get to know your tether system. How does it work? How far could you fall if clipped in at different points? These are questions best answered through hands-on experience, on the dock or even underway. Talk about it with your crew. Practice different scenarios. Good practice not only improves safety, but it can help you meet the routine on-board training requirements of the offshore special regulations. Make sure you and your crew inspect your safety equipment regularly to ensure it will work properly in an emergency. And remember, sometimes the tether itself becomes the danger, so don't just focus on clipping on, practice how to release or cut the tether if you have to. A successful man overboard recovery can be broken down into 3 core stages: immediate actions, approach, and recovery and aftercare. Every vessel, every crew, and every situation is different. That's why it's essential to train and talk through how each of those stages applies to your boat. Many of the first responses can be practiced without ever leaving the dock. Start with raising the alarm. Do your crew know where the VHF radio is? Can they find the Mayday card? Do they know how to use the man overboard button on the trout plotter? These are simple but crucial steps and easy to rehearse. Once on the way, try using a bucket and fender to simulate a person overboard. This lets you practice boat handling and decision making in a realistic but safe way. Approaching a person in the water is where your boat handling really counts. Practice helps you figure out how your boat behaves in different conditions and how best to control it. Using a bucket and fender again to simulate a casualty, work on how you'll stop, where you'll stop, and how you'll stay aware of hazards on deck and in the water. It might take several attempts to get your approach just right, and that's exactly why we practice. With the boat under control, it's time to recover the casualty. This is where your preparation really pays off. Do you have a recovery plan? Is your gear accessible and familiar? Practice using your actual equipment, heaving lines, recovery slings, throw bags, whatever your boat carries. Have something ready to secure the person to the boat as soon as you reach them. Pulling someone out of the water is physically demanding. That's why dockside practice is so important. You can simulate recovery with a real person from a pontoon or dinghy and test different methods. Finally, think about what comes next. How will you shelter and care for the casualty? Do you know what to do for cold water shock or hypothermia? This is where your onboard first aid skills and your RYA and world sailing offshore personal survival training might just save a life. So, how will you prevent a man overboard? When was the last time you practiced? Is your equipment ready and is your crew prepared? What drills can you run and what conversations should you be having before you set off? Man overboard situations are rare, but when they happen, preparation makes all the difference. Talk, practice, be ready.
So most importantly, when you go out there, we want your water to come back. So go out, enjoy, but be safe. Stay on the boat, come back each and every bloody time. And know how to turn your PLB off if it's been activated. And you won't know it's been activated, so just got to keep checking. Okay? So know what the buttons are for, same with your AIS or your PLB3. Know how to turn them off, otherwise AMS is going to send you a big bill for their jet that comes over just to wave its wings at you, and you're okay. MOB practice day. Who wants to go out on Sunday? Have you seen the weather? 30 knots, rain, excellent conditions in which to do it. Not really. We're going to find another day, so we're not going to do it this Sunday. Okay? Yeah, we'll find another day. Okay. So, that's it, boys and girls. So thank you very much.
John, I would just like to say thank you very much for presenting a topic that's so important and making it so engaging and interesting. So on behalf of the Cruising Committee, and beautifully wrapped by Stephen here, we'd just like to present you with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. White boys all around it. So
It's a damn
that's
boy.
fantastic. So thanks very much for that. Look, it's a big topic. We just touched a very little bit of it. Okay, so important to stay on the boat, but go and have a look at the equipment that you've got and work out how you're going to get somebody on board, especially if there's just the two of you. It's important to it. So what I did say was there's one boat that had a very, very nice, neat system. I wish I had a photo of it. And what they did was that on their backstay, about level where the cockpit is, they had a block and tackle permanently attached to the backstay, and they had a rope down with the hook, and the others threw a block to their winch. And what it meant was that if somebody went over the side, you're there in the cockpit. You've got the motor, you've got the controls, you've got this line, you've got the boat that's above you. You can get that person there, right next to the cockpit, hook them up, hit the button. They had electric winches, big electric winch, and haul them up, and it was just there. So that was one of the best systems that I've seen in doing. Go, have a look what you've got. And there's not one system will suit everything. I've also got, amongst all that, a shake-off. They use treadless shake-off. Idea is you put it in the water, bring Ruth on board, and then haul her up. Shake-off floats. It needs weights. So, you know, it could be a jib, it could be a bit of canvas, anything. Just go and have a look what you've got. And this was all about practicing with somebody who's unconscious. When they're conscious, they can help and they can assist. And that's a much easier way of doing it. So, all right, well, thank you all very much for coming.
I told you it was enthusiastic. Just one quick thing I forgot to mention at the start. The AGM for the cruising section is next Thursday. Don't worry, you probably won't get thrown into the committee if you haven't already put your hand up. I think we've got a good committee, and most of the committee are hoping to stay on if you're happy for that to happen. But please come along. We're going to show lots of fun photos. We've got some hot mulled cider free at the door when you arrive, and it's going to be a really fun night, good social night. Come and catch up, find out what we did last year, and help us choose what we're going to do this year. Thank you.
Go before the bar shuts.
Thanks, Doug. Well done, mate.